their comments in the chat because I think it's going to be a little cathartic here to talk about 2025, or maybe a lot cathartic. Let me just send out, drop in some rooms, which I haven't done before.
Wait, do we have a link already?
Yeah, grab it from your YouTube. Did you?
Okay, I didn't know it hadn't populated. Okay, I'll just refresh. Got it. Okay.
Yes, I see you. I see your link up there. I think.
Got it.
But we should have a link. How's everybody's night? New Year's Eve.
I'm still with migraine, so.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry.
What a great way to ring in 2026. It was like a week-long event too, so I'm not used to that. It's usually 24 to 36 hours, and this was a test because I wanted to stab something a lot of times. I get real like upset when it takes that long. Like I have things to do. I don't have time for this, especially when it doesn't respond to medication.
Where I thought I was in the chat room, it actually took me out. I'm not going to try that again.
Yeah, I saw you and Susan disappeared, so I put you back on the screen. So you know what, you guys, let's start off. I'm a very visual person, and when we decided, okay, we're gonna kind of like, reminisce on 2025, which I think most people would say was kind of a shitty year. I actually have found some stuff that I forgot about, and I'm gonna share this one thing with you guys. Let me hold on. That whale. That kind of surprised me once I saw it.
Stays out in case.
Hold on. Okay. And I feel like we should have all known what was coming at this moment.
We're told today there is no what's known as the designated survivor. People may be familiar with that when it comes to a State of the Union address where one member of the cabinet, so someone who has sworn the oath in office, stays out in case of an extraordinary threat to the continuity of government. Right now, the only people who have that oath are outgoing Biden administration officials. And we're told that there is no designated survivor today. Why? I'm not sure. We're told today that.
So I think that was like a good setup for what was to come, because they're so incompetent, and this is the start of it, I feel. Like, so, do you guys remember that moment? I don't know if I didn't watch the whole inauguration, but I do remember hearing that, and I was like, what is going on here? So, and I feel like they've been a hot mess ever since.
Chris, your audio is echoing for me.
It is.
Is anybody else hearing that?
Hold on, let me see if I can adjust something here.
Yeah, I remember all of the designated survivor memes from the
show. You do? I think I've trauma blocked this. I don't have any recollection of it at all. But I mean, it seems very on brand. I just don't remember it. I think it was like a trauma block for me.
Yeah, I think I posted one.
Yeah, I posted this video. Can you guys hear me now? Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear you?
Right. Let me know if it starts again. Yeah, I just thought that was crazy. And this administration has no planning. They just shoot from the hip. And I thought this was like the perfect foreshadowing of what was to come. So y'all want to jump in here? Like, what are your, like, I can put up with something else, because I think pretty quickly after this, this isn't a video, but just to remind us of the pardons. This was in January 20th, I think the same day of the inauguration, he pardoned the J6ers, which included Proud Boys and Oath Keepers. So that was like a huge, like, what the fuck, and I think we knew it was kind of coming. I didn't know he would do all of them. Did you guys?
I had a feeling he would do all of them.
I didn't think so. And I know we've heard since then that a lot of them have gotten back into lives of crime,
right?
Including pedophilia and rape. So this, and there's no consequences here.
I figured he was going to pardon them all. I didn't realize how simple of a blanket pardon it was going to be. Like, for everything in
I've
perpetuity.
talked to Republicans who thought they were being held hostage. You know, the January 6ers. It's just not true.
But now, from what I understand, they're having issues with the pipe bomber and where to charge this person in federal or district court because he's a January 6er and could possibly get that blanket pardon.
Oh, so you think it interesting? As even even a pipe bomber would get the pardon, blanket pardon. That's
Yeah, because
I hadn't
everybody's
heard that.
been questioning
Yeah.
why wasn't he
You know, I
in
think we
federal
should bring
court?
this up on January 6th.
Yeah, why
I
wasn't
think
he
that
indicted in the federal court system?
people
Why was it
forget
moved?
very quickly.
They do. Someone put in the chat the Doge catastrophe,
Mm.
which, yes, I mean that was also pretty early on in the administration.
Yeah.
Patty, hey, it was what? So we had remember Elon? Well, first of all, we spent like months hating Elon Musk. He was he was like this waste, fraud, and abuse that really wasn't. And also, that's another foreshadowing because almost everything that comes out of this administration is the tell. Like how much waste, fraud, and abuse have we seen? Since January out of this administration, where I'm not saying there wasn't any, waste in government. I think that kind of comes with the territory, but there definitely was not. If there was fraud, they would be prosecuting the fraudsters by now. They would be parading them on Fox News. As far as fraud in the past administrations, and that has not been happening. My audio's off. You guys can't hear me.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I can. You heard me that time. Okay, maybe I'll take off my headphones.
It sounds like you're in a cave or like you have a pillowcase over your head or something. Like it's just like a pillow to your mouth. It's kind of muffling. I mean, I can hear the baritone. It's nice, but the rest of it. I can't believe how much I don't remember that happened. I was telling Chris about this to everybody else.
I can't hear.
Who, me? Me?
You what?
Oh, can you hear me? I was asking Susan if she could hear me.
Oh,
Because she said she couldn't hear. I went through all of my clips from like the last year because CapCut was like, hey, we'll make a cute little video for you. And I was like, fantastic. And it imported all the clips, right? But it imported a couple of my kids. And I was like, no, I don't want that. So I had to go back in and pull a couple. And I was like scrolling. The next one wanted me to put the clips in and it wanted me to pick one from each month. And I was like, that's easy. I can just pick 12 clips. No big deal, right? Because I'm all about like less work for that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to, number one, pick the like either most important or most ridiculous clip from each month. And I got like 3 days into each month and I was like, oh no, like because there's too many. And then I was like, I don't remember half of this happening. Like I genuinely could not remember that I had done videos on so much of this content and the vast the amount of material. Like I cried. Like I just cried because it was so overwhelming. I mean, it was ridiculous and I was laughing, but I was also crying because I was like, this is too much. That's too many slices. And I told Chris, I'm like, I couldn't get past February because it was just too much to actually like go through and look at every single thing that had happened. I mean, I started with like, I think I stopped at Greenland. Remember the whole Greenland thing? We were going to take over Greenland. That was a whole thing that happened. That wasn't just like a fever dream. It was real.
right.
I can't
And
believe it.
the stuff happening in our country. I mean, for families like mine and maybe Susan's that are dependent on the American safety net, the onslaught at the beginning, the first few months with Doge was so catastrophic. And I think what was really affecting me, like I went into a deep depression, was that it seemed nobody was doing anything about it. It was hard to understand how we had no guardrails in this country to prevent teenagers from walking into our federal institutions and just making camp and taking over, literally sleeping in our federal agencies and just completely taking over and firing
was,
people
I
at
think, one
will,
of the-
getting into our personal data and just stealing everything. And like, what the hell is going on here? Why
that
is
was one
no
of the most
one
underreported things. I'm so sorry, but that is, I forgot that even happened because it was so wild, and yet somehow, like you said, nobody doing, there wasn't enough happening. There wasn't enough of response. There wasn't enough
Right.
reaction to that.
yeah,
Which I feel like
it
set
was
the tone for the rest of
it was
the
wild
year.
that there was no response. That's what was like, why is no one, where are the police? And now this is like before like ICE invaded America. And I was just, where is the FBI? Pull in the CIA, pull in why is nobody stopping this? I don't understand what's happening. You know, my son lost his Medicaid in March, and I got zero answers as to why. I didn't understand what was happening, why we were getting no answers. And then it was just on and on and on. And it just got worse and worse by the day. And then we finally kind of settled into, okay, no one's coming to save us. And then you have to kind of just, I guess, connect with that reality. And then everybody kind of started, okay, what are we going to do? And, you know, organizing rallies and all of that sort of thing. And that was a very hard realization to really connect with, that no one's coming to save us. What the fuck are we going to do now? You know, and really truly having to organize for the first time. I mean, being an advocate for others and an activist, the hardest thing for me was having to advocate on behalf of my own family for the first time. And that was really, really difficult. But I think the biggest thing for me this year was, where is everyone? How do we have no guardrails? How did we not prepare for this? How, after what happened in 2016, we knew it could happen. How did we not have anything in place at all? Not even one thing to prevent this from happening again. We've always known that Social Security was on the chopping block, that the Affordable Care Act is on the chopping block if they got into power again. We've always known this. How did we not have even one sentence written down anywhere as some sort of plan?
Well, it's, you know, when I went back and pulled some of the, like, you know, screenshots or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, big balls. There was somebody in charge of our, like, so was Social Security, right? Like, I big balls, a like 19-year-old kid with that nickname. And that was too fast for me. Okay. Like, I did anticipate some fuckery. Like, I anticipated that they would go hard and fast, but it was twofold, is like what we talked about before. I dramatically underestimated how quickly the media, and I guess just, I mean, the general public was already so fatigued. And I think that was part of the problem. They were already news fatigued and checked out. And so when you're telling them, hey, your Social Security is like being controlled by a bunch of college kids, they're like, meh, this seems like that's right. But the media gave up real fast. And that surprised me. I actually thought, I I thought that the Trump administration would go harder and faster. I think they actually hit some bumps and some blockages that they didn't anticipate, but it didn't come from the media and the public, which is what I thought was going to happen, right? Like that's really what I thought was going to save us. And the people that I thought were going to save us kind of just sat back and went, I don't know, like, you know, and then people like you stepped in who were affected by it, Susan, who have, you know, like personal people in their lives that are going to be hurt by the policies, and they got louder to try to compensate for it, and that helped. Those personal stories absolutely helped, but I was still just, you know, when I was telling Chris, just really affected by how much there was, and by how much how we underreacted to that, like as a nation, like in total, in mass, with the media and everybody. Like it was too much, absurdly so.
Agreed.
I agree, totally. I think that the Supreme Court didn't help us at all.
I didn't think they would, but yeah, that would have been nice.
I mean, now that was the time to do something,
Yep.
and they did nothing.
They just
So,
said, you're on your own, Al Capone. Like, good luck.
yeah. We give him the power, you know.
The blatant capitulation by the Supreme Court of the United States is shocking. It is stunning.
I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
So I hate it so much because I hate it because we saw it. Because we saw it in the confirmation hearings. And this kind of goes back to what we've been talking about in terms of both leadership and assertiveness in messaging, and also just in front of the cameras by the Democrats, because this was there were some people that fought it, like Kavanaugh. Like I remember that there were some people that did and pushed him hard, but there were a lot of people that didn't. And here we are. And we back then were all kind of jumping up and down and screaming and going, this is a problem. This is a problem.
Yeah.
They have an agenda. It's very evident that they have an agenda. And we hadn't seen that as much from, I mean, I don't think, at least in my studies, like it was always a little more tongue in cheek. It was always a little more like, yeah, like I have this interpretation of the Constitution, but it wasn't like so obvious. Like I would like to end abortion in this country. You know, they weren't, to me, this bunch of people moving into the Supreme Court, it was very obvious what they wanted to do. And so, of course, once he's in office, they just kind of sat down and went, have fun, enjoy your authoritarian regime. That's what it felt like to me. And so it was frustrating on multiple levels because one, we saw this coming. Like, and it isn't like, I told her, I'm like, it's not that I'm a genius, right? It's not that I'm a soothsayer.
No.
It's just that we have the information available to us and we saw it. So then when it happened, it felt like a double hit. It was the sadness of losing that, what I would have previously said to me was like the branch of government that if I had to revere one, right? Like if I had to respect one more, it would have been them, right? Like I would have always said the Supreme Court is the one that's going to come in and save the day. And they're now the ones that have wrecked it, probably almost as much as anyone else, which is wild to think about, right?
Being in Texas, it's extremely discouraging, especially having John Roberts, supposedly the paragon on gerrymandering, not doing that, right? Not doing racial gerrymandering. And what they keep doing, all of them as a body, overturning lower court decisions, and just really, really fucked it all up for all of us in Texas by overturning what had been months long court investigations and decisions. I mean, they're just throwing all kinds of Trump appointed judges under the bus for all of us. And it's disgusting. I mean, I truly at this second, I think I know what new district I'm in. Don't know who my representative is, but I mean, It's confusing, it's disheartening, and it's by design.
Yeah, and I would like to point to this comment. Why am I echoing? Oh no. Okay, it's gone. Because this is, to me, this seems like one of the greatest challenges for the Democrats, for this country, is that we have a bunch of people who think that the government shouldn't be in your lives, which, by the way, is literally the whole point of government. Like, don't come to a government teacher. I'm a former government teacher. Don't come to me and say, we don't want the government in our lives. Bitch, that's the job of the government. You literally you enter a social contract to be in this society so you are protected, and the government's job is to protect you. And part of that is healthcare, and part of that is education, and part of that is infrastructure. And there's so many things that the government is a part of. Now, to what degree the federal government and the state government share those responsibilities, we can talk about that all day long. But don't come in here and talk about anarchy with me. Like, you can go to Antarctica and live in a tent by yourself then, because that's not what government does. Thank you. Let me comment that way now.
I wouldn't mind a tent right now. I have to tell you,
because this is the problem, is that we have people legitimizing the taking away of all of these, important these important supportive systems. Healthcare.
Yes.
The idea that you should have just made more money. I guess you'll have to die. What? Like, people are born into this country. You force, like, on the video that I just made, there are people that are like, well, then if you can't afford childcare, don't have children. And I was like, then stop forcing people to. What do you mean? Like, that's crazy to me. To look me dead ass in the face and say, well, if you can't afford healthcare for your kids or childcare, you shouldn't have them. But sir, you took away the ability for me to terminate a pregnancy. What do you mean? They don't, there's no logic. It's just human suffering. Like, they just want the wealthy white men to benefit.
Yeah.
And the rest of the people will suffer. And that is the real goal and initiative of this Christian nationalism, white supremacy movement of the Republican Party. But under the guise of, we just want less government. No. You want government that's going to control people, because that's ultimately what's happening.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
It's echoing though.
That's so weird. All right.
Is it just echoing for me? Everybody that's watching, are you guys hearing the echo, or is it just me? Because if it's just me, I'll deal with it.
Testing
hear it.
1, 2,
Am I
3.
echoing?
Can you guys hear me? Am I echoing?
no. Casey is.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, but so I kicked myself out and then I added myself as a guest. So then there were 2 of me in here, and I know that was causing part of the echo. So I just kicked out one of me. And also I'm not on my headphones anymore, so I think that might help. But
Susan was echoing a little bit. Oh, I think I am too. Am I now?
I don't hear an echo. But
Oh.
so I just put up a graphic from actually last night, because you guys are talking about healthcare. And so let's talk about the ACA for a second, what happened. So basically, Republicans and Democrats, but it wasn't Democrats' fault. Republicans basically, Mike Johnson said, let's go home for the holidays, guys. We're not going to vote on the ACA. We're not going to take up that discharge petition. We're not going to put a vote on the floor to extend the tax credits for the ACA. So for me personally, that affects me. We just canceled. I posted about this. I don't know if it was I think it was the night before. I posted about, like, we canceled our insurance. My wife canceled our insurance. She's the one that's been, she takes care of the healthcare negotiations and the insurance plan for our household. And I know there's this 114% is very similar to the increase that I got. And I'm one of those 20 million Americans, but we chose to say, F it, we're not doing it anymore. So we're not insured. And I think that's a hard choice for a lot of people. We've been paying attention the entire time. So I'm not going to say it was easy, but it wasn't a shock. And we had already come to that conclusion. Like, we're not going to do health insurance. For myself and my wife, we have a son who's aged out. He's on his own. He has his own health insurance, and our daughter's in college, and I couldn't have her not be insured. So we went through college, the college plan for her healthcare insurance. So she has
Okay.
insurance. We are going to do, I'll just share a little bit, but I do plan on doing a whole thing on our journey later, but we're, going through the process right now of protecting our assets. So that in the case that something really bad does happen to one of us, our properties are protected. And then we're also going to be working on, there's different names for them, but there are healthcare groups where you pay memberships, where you basically pay a monthly or yearly fee, and you can go to the doctor as often as you want. Like there's a group. And then I encourage people to look into to negotiations with healthcare providers, not the insurance companies, but your actual doctor. And you simply just say, how much is the cash option? And that doesn't mean physical dollars. That means if I settle a payment today, I could use a credit card, whatever. How much is it? And it is drastically less than what's on your insurance bill, like what they charge the insurance company.
Correct.
And once you realize those things, it doesn't really make sense to have insurance if you are healthy. Now, I think it's a much different decision for people with chronic health conditions that, God forbid, like you just have to stay on insurance. And for now, pre-existing conditions are covered. I just think it's all up in the air, to be honest, when the insurance companies realize so many people are canceling. How does the ACA survive? And that's to me a big question mark. And so I think, our group, the Reformers, one of our pushes, we've talked about this going into January, is we're going to our call to action is contact your representative, contact your senator, and let them know that, let me start here. Sorry. We have another government shutdown coming the end of January, the end of this month. And unless that's avoided, it's shutting down just like last time. And we need our Democrat senators and representatives to hold strong this time. And none of this talk, I don't think any of the rank and file Democrat voters are going to be, and not that we were super patient last time, but we're not going to hear this like, oh, they're going to negotiate with us once we reopen. We just saw what happened. So I just wanted to bring that up because you guys were talking about healthcare, and I think this graphic says it perfectly here.
It does.
Yeah, and I know some of us on this call do have ongoing healthcare issues. And you need to stay on your insurance. Like this is not me suggesting otherwise.
Well, the way I've tried to explain it is the less people in the program, the higher the rates. But then the higher the hospitals are going to get their money somehow, whether it's from other patients that come in or it's, in their billing. But they will recoup their money unless it's a rural hospital. In that case, they can't survive. They just can't survive. Losing Medicaid. And as far as pre-existing conditions, we don't know what they're going to do. At what point will those no longer be protections for us?
Yeah, it's all a mess. I mean, we desperately need to get a supplemental dental and vision plan for my son. And we've already been told because he has pre-existing conditions, we won't be able to get it. So I am going to have to lie.
Lisa, I have a question. So have you asked your vision or you said dental, what the cash option is. Do they tell you anything different than what they would be billing the insurance company?
So what we ended up doing is going through a private broker, which was a substantial difference. I mean, Thomas's insurance was going up by $1,500 a month. Couldn't do that because mine, I'm going through my employer for mine. We had to do it all of these different ways, like you were saying, you know, and Thomas is now on his own going through the broker is like only $100 a month now. Mine through my work for just me, much less. And for Christopher getting on his dad, it's been so confusing, but you have to do your homework in order to make all of this work for your family. He's got his medical, except not dental and vision. So we have to go again, and we're still working on that, through a private broker to find different plans. And I've already made the mistake of describing his health history. So going to start over and just keep all of that out.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
There's
the
a
cash
comment.
Records, but
the cash option is cheaper, but not if you have long-standing health issues. So if you're going to have, this is what people don't understand if they've not had chronic illness, right? Like, so you have the privilege of not having that kind of need to rely on insurance. And I think a lot of families can do that. But for people who have chronic health issues or issues that just need to be, you know, managed, at some point in the year, it becomes cheaper to have an insurance plan that lets you have either an out-of-pocket max or like a percentage where you pay less over time once you've hit a certain amount of money. It gets really complicated. Okay. It's not that people are ignorant or people are lazy. It's that this whole system is convoluted and incredibly difficult to work with. And that was the whole point of the ACA, giving people options and protections, because that is, again, the job of the government, is to make sure its people are safe, not just from foreign threats, but also domestic. And that involves like pandemics, for instance, right? Like,
yeah.
anyway,
and
sorry. Yeah. So
Can
sorry,
I
Lisa,
just jump in? I put up a comment that said, no, government is never, emphatic never, the answer. And I just want to address that because most Western governments have a fully functioning public healthcare option for their citizens. We do not. And this is because Republicans, I think we have to be really clear here. This is because Republicans do not believe in government funded healthcare. And this is why we are suffering. This is why we do not know what our healthcare is going to be like this year or next, because this is just the beginning of a huge problem with insurance rates. It's not going to end. It's going to get worse and worse. And we could fix this if we just copied what other Western countries are doing. And instead, Republicans have been weakening the ACA. When the ACA started, it wasn't perfect because we did not have a public option. I always disagreed. I always felt like we should have, but it was a lot better than it is today. And now, over time, repeal and replace. They never had a replacement. They still do not have a replacement, and they're not going to have a replacement. This, a healthcare savings plan, for example, my understanding of it, and y'all jump in if this is not correct, you have to have an employer. It has to come out of your check, your weekly pay. So those of us that are self-employed or have a small business, like if you have an LLC, you don't have that. So that's not a good solution, even if you like the idea.
I do want to
go ahead.
I do want to address the same person in the chat. And I'm going to try really hard not to get emotional here, because they have called the police. Fire department's on its way because of what I said.
That's ridiculous.
I appreciate that I think they also wrote, I have the rest of my life to pay it back. And I appreciate not everybody agrees with what's happening with the healthcare fight. My son has an incurable skin cancer syndrome, nevus basal cell carcinoma syndrome. One of the symptoms for it are jaw tumors. He's had 26 removed in his life, including 25 permanent teeth. He has another cluster of these tumors. He does not eat solid food because of them. And the ongoing orthodontic care he requires would bankrupt us without medical insurance. Again, this is a cancer syndrome. He just had his 42nd surgery in November. We are doing everything in our power to make sure this child has the best quality of life. But in order to do that, we need his medical insurance. I am going to be 60 years old on January 10th. When you say I have the rest of my life to pay it back, what you're saying is leaving this debt to my other children. That is not how this country is supposed to work. And I just wanted to put that out there.
I think that's well said. And to add on, you know what? People do not have the rest of their lives to pay this back. You don't, and you don't know. I don't know what your name is, sir. I'm your Coke Dog 2321 courageous handle there. I don't think it's. I don't know. Can we just be kind to people? I get your point, and I think everyone is welcome to be on here and have a voice. But I think being an asshole is not okay. And that
I was gonna say, I'm not going to welcome you if you're telling people not to get emotional when it involves real people's lives. I'm not going to welcome you to the table for that.
So
sorry.
I think that's right. And I just don't think. I think everyone can see what you are. I don't know if you are a regular troll. You said you don't get emotional. We are adults. I'll leave if you want me to. I don't care if you leave or not, but I don't want to hear this shit on here. It's our live, and we're friends on here. Our guests, we want you guys to share your experiences. I don't know what your experience is. Obviously, or it sounds like you're in good health. I'm in good health, but I'm also sensitive to other people's experience, other people's lived experience, and they are not the same as mine. And I was sharing my family choice. Lisa was sharing what was going on in her family. And I think that says more about you, the fact that you're trashing her or telling her she has the rest of her life to pay for it, when she has been going through so much. I know Lisa, she's been going through so much for so many years since she gave birth to her son. And so it would speak a lot better of you if you would maybe give a suggestion or advice in that vein instead of being a callous asshole. So let's move on.
I mean, the advice is like, just don't have government. And that's not advice. Like, right. That's not real. Like you said, there's clear recipes for success when it comes to government and its citizenry. And we can just look to other nations for that. But just simply saying the government shouldn't be a part of it is not a solution. And I feel like this is a problem going forward when we talk about not just healthcare, but like anything in general, this idea that we can just leave certain citizens behind, like we're adopting some sort of eugenics movement, that needs to be talked about, right? Because the roots of this nation are in white supremacy and eradicating groups of people. So the idea that that wouldn't be replicated by people who also advance those beliefs is naive, like in the best settings. Like I think just simply not talking about how these policies are impacting the most vulnerable is irresponsible. And we should be having those conversations, and we should be hearing those stories from people, because that's how we know that these policies are not just going to affect Lisa and her family, or Susan and her family, but eventually Chris, right? So that's how we know part of this is it's illogical to ignore these types of things and say, oh, just pay them back later, because we understand that as a nation, we will all be threatened by it. We will all eventually feel and incur the negative side effects of not subsidizing this. So this is like what Chris was saying before. There's a blueprint for this, and we can see this with other countries, but just like use common sense. Like, if Lisa can't afford to pay for healthcare for her son, she also can't afford to buy groceries. She cannot afford to buy cars, to do the things that we know are going to spur the economy and keep you in a job. So at some point, you're not going to have a job because people like Lisa and me can't afford to pay for your job. That's how you're here. I mean, unless you're a billionaire, like I said, if you're a white man that's making 7 figures, this is the party for you. But if it's not, like I said in my video last night, the Republican Party does not make policy for you. They make policy against you, unless you are a
and let's be clear, we're not talking about like a regular doctor's well-care visit. We're talking about like life or death care.
Yes.
And that's a very different thing. Like, so yeah, okay, I don't have to go to the doctor this year for a regular checkup. That's a choice. But if you have a chronic illness that keeps you from working, or a chronic illness that doesn't allow you to function in your life, you need care, and it should not it should not put you out of house and home. And I'll say this, I'm a Democrat. I do have issues with the party, but I do share the values of like, I think as Democrats, I don't believe in leaving people behind. I do not believe in, like, I'm perfectly fine. I pay a lot of taxes. I'm perfectly fine with my taxes going to help with Medicaid, or to help with FEMA, or to help with those kind of things. And that is what government is here for.
Yeah. And I do want to add that disability is the one marginalized group that anyone can join at any second. And the reason all of us do what we do, especially those of us in the disability community, like me and Susan, the reason we all do what we do is to educate others and to help others. We're not doing this for us specifically. We're trying to get information out there to have awareness and to have debate. You know, we always welcome debate, but intelligent debate. And we really want to get awareness out there for those who do not know what happened at the strike of midnight last night, because a lot changed for a lot of people. And, you know, healthcare should be a right in this country. It no longer is. It just isn't. It just isn't. So that's why I do what I do. I know that's why Susan does what she does. And we're not just all about just healthcare. I mean, healthcare does affect, like Casey said, the economy, this, that, the everything. It's a domino effect that's going to affect all of our lives.
Well, I can add to that, Lisa, that it's going to impact our quality of care as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been in this system for a long time. My son was born with cystic fibrosis. So right now, doctors' offices can say, we're not going to take you because you have no insurance. Hospitals in their ER departments are another story. They have to take you. And so what's going to happen is the people that are dropping their insurance, that have young kids, that kid gets in a skateboard accident, winds up in the ER, they're not going to be able to pay that bill. I can guarantee it. And
Yeah, I
that
don't think people realize how bad this is going to get. This is January 1st, and people are either making the choice to continue paying or they're not, or it's going to get kicked down the road. But there's going to be repercussions here that are going to affect everyone. It's not just the people like myself who've decided, this is not worth $36,000 a year when I have other choices for insurance,
To that,
But
to
that's
that
the
effect,
first thing they want when you go into an emergency department. How are you going to pay for this? What insurance do you have?
But
You
not
have to sign an agreement. You will pay for it.
Yeah.
And what I'm thinking is the more people without health care, the busier the ERs are going to get. They're going to get incredibly busy. And, people know that they can't turn them down. They have to take care of them.
Yeah.
So it's the emergency rooms that are going to suffer, the doctors and nurses, as well. And
Susan,
this is just the beginning.
This is why they're trying to get rid of EMTALA. This is the reason that they also want to get rid of EMTALA. They don't want hospitals to be required to give everyone care. And I would like to point out, if
And
anybody
I also think that everyone should write down their family healthcare story. They should write it down, call their congressman, call their senator, and tell them what pre-existing conditions your family has.
Yeah. Well,
And how it's going to impact you.
If you have gotten a life insurance plan through your employer or through anyone for that matter, interesting story. I have chronic illness, and I have since I wasn't a child when it happened. I was a healthy person, and then because of working and I don't know, life factors, eventually when I was teaching, I got really, really sick and I had to stop working, and it took me a really long time. I never got back to normal, right? Like normal. I got back to a way of life that looks to a lot of people like I'm perfectly fine, but you don't know all the stuff I have to do behind the scenes to stay that way. And so I thought when we were applying for life insurance and I had to put down all of the doctors and all of the treatments and all of the things that I do, that I was never going to get approved for it. I was like, well, this is I'm in trouble, right? Whereas my husband, who's been really healthy and rarely goes to the doctor and never really needs anything, it's going to be a piece of cake for him, right? He filled out an application it was nobody's business. Mine took me days to fill out because I had to put all my health history and all this stuff, right? Mine comes back approved immediately. He has to actually go do more work. And why was that? Because the insurance companies looked at the things that I had done as maintenance. And they're like, oh, well, this chick's getting blood work done every 6 to 8 weeks. She's seeing doctors. That's great for us because these aren't major health issues. So if anything, she's going to catch stuff earlier and she's not going to have maybe some of these bigger, massive healthcare costs. So what I'm saying is, in fact, maintenance and some of these lesser expenses that, while they're very hard for us to incur, actually in the grand scheme of things, save us and this country money, right? The companies and corporations have already figured this out. They know that. So there's a reason why that equation exists. And there's a reason why not just emergency care should be afforded to people. There's a reason why it makes more economic sense to make sure people have the money to go see doctors, to go get blood work done, even if it's in a maintenance capacity, something where I have to do it every 6 to 8 weeks, right? This is what I think isn't talked about a lot, is that it's not just about human empathy. It's also economically, it makes sense. It checks every single box. It makes sense from a standpoint of just human caring and being not a monster. but it also makes sense because our economy will do better and we will thrive. And like Susan said, it will also end up meaning that our level of care is higher for everyone. So just all of the boxes are checked off when we make sure that healthcare is affordable and accessible to everyone. And I just go back to what Chris said at the beginning, which is like, there is a blueprint. And if you look to other nations, everyone else is doing this. And we're like the only one. And there's a reason for that, right? And it's not to benefit you or me. I mean, I guess unless you're like, again, a billionaire hiding out in the comments section. Like, I don't know, maybe we do have some billionaires in the audience. I'm not one of them. So I want it covered.
It's
We have to
for
add that,
lack of a better
caveat
word,
to candidates
called
in
greed.
2026. Don't be a monster.
and
Try that.
they're
Yeah.
all guilty of it. The insurance companies,
And so we should probably.
who knows where it
What
starts?
do we want from our
But
Democratic
they're making
candidates
a fortune.
this year?
For some reason, Susan and Lisa are talking at the same time. I feel like one of you can't hear the other. I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, so
I think it might be a delay, like our.
maybe
our
that's what it
internet
is.
Delayed or something.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't see Susan moving.
Okay, maybe I see Susan moving. I see everybody, but let's move on to something a little more positive here, I guess. So and just to say this about healthcare, this is a continuing conversation. This is something we have to keep talking about it. And we have to make sure our representatives and senators are fighting for us. It's unacceptable that they went home for the holidays. And I realize that was Republicans' call, not Democrats. Democrats aren't in control of anything right now. And I think everybody should remember that. But we do have elections coming up, 2026, and this is 2026. And we need to use that to our advantage. Okay. No kings. So people have been along the way fed up and showing it at protests. And it hasn't just been no kings. There's been protests like at the Tesla dealerships and all these different things, right? And we have been able to voice our, I don't know, what do you say, displeasure with this administration. But I think one of the things that was so Trump had this military parade, which was that for his birthday? What was that? Wasn't that for his birthday or something like that?
Yeah, it was his parade.
Yeah, or was it the anniversary? I think it was the anniversary of the Army. I think that's what it was.
Yes.
And he used it as an excuse to have a parade.
And they were like, don't do that. And he was like, I'm going to do it anyway.
Thing. Meanwhile, we're all protesting, right? But the contrast is like, you look at this thing. Listen to this. I mean, it makes us sound like we have a breakdown. And that was real. And then we have our protests by contrast. And so I think, to me, this is a good thing because, and then we had another, I think there was the first No Kings protest. Then we had another, and there's been all these protests since
I think we had three or four total. And I say this because some of my most popular videos are me sharing your protest art. And this is also how I know that this is how the bulk of the population feels is the same as this, because those are the videos that consistently get more shared and more likes because people are feeling like, okay, I'm not alone in this. Other people are just as upset as I am and don't want these intrusive policies and these like 100%. Harmful. Yeah.
And that if you go to these protests, that's what's the great thing about it. You see so many like-minded people who are not crazy, who are feeling the pain and are really sick of it. And your videos are great. There's great signs. There've been great signs expressing I'm like, damn, I wish that was my sign or whatever.
They're so creative.
And I always leave there feeling good. It's not the solution, but it keeps us going. It keeps us going, and it makes you realize there's, others that think like me,
I will defend the protests, marches until my dying day because people get upset that they're performative. But I feel like we need those moments too, because we have to have those sort of unifying experiences to keep us going, right? Like even if you talk about anybody that's been through something similar to this or like a long kind of traumatic series of events, they say there has to be humor, there has to be levity, like there has to, you have to have these little bits to hold on to of positivity to get you through the rest. And so this does a lot though, because you've seen Trump have reactions to it. You've seen Republicans have reactions to it. So we know that it's not just performative. Like maybe there are some things that would be more impactful, but we know that this is impactful and it does do things beyond just unifying us. It also reminds our representatives and members of Congress how we feel it, like in a very visual way, right? Like it's different when you have people calling that you don't see, but when you see masses of people standing together against a tyrant, like that gives you maybe pause to support that tyrant. Maybe you think, oh, like I like my job and I'd like to keep it at the midterm. So I'm going to start supporting policy that the people support and not this one guy backed by the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah, and it's some of
Well,
these
he
rallies,
does,
especially
definitely get,
surrounding
we definitely
the,
get a rise out of him.
the Army parade
The last No Kings
with that No
protest,
Kings rally.
he
There
next
were
day he
quite
rented a
few-
backhoe
actually
and
a
had them
large
tear
number
down
of
the White House,
military Trump supporters
East or West
at the
Wing,
No
whatever
King.
it was.
Like on the one hand, my ADHD really likes having to go back and forth, but on the other hand, people can't hear you. So I don't understand who can't hear who.
Oh, they can't hear me.
No, we
you
can hear both of
you and
you.
Susan were talking at the same time, so I don't know. There's
I
something
just
going on
assume,
there.
yeah, because we can hear you both, but
Oh,
it doesn't seem like you can hear each other.
we're doing it right now again. Susan and I are talking. at
No.
the same-
Oh,
It was
you
a few
were
minutes ago.
a minute ago.
Yeah.
No, but what I was saying is there were quite a few military Trump supporters that were at the No Kings rally because they are upset at what he was doing to the military with that parade. You know, turning the military into some sort of personal plaything for him. You know, the authoritarianism, turning it into like a North Korean parade or into a
Mhm.
Russian parade. And
Using the actual tanks from Russia in the 80s. It's like what that was. The squeaky.
yeah, and so he is, you know, more and more turning a lot of his own supporters against him by continuing to
I
mimic
can't hear
his
again.
authoritarian idols.
Yeah.
How empty those stands are. How empty those stands are. Nobody was there. It was bad. I mean, it was funny.
Okay. So here's something else. Do you guys remember? Well, I'm sure you do. Remember when was that where we thought there was all these rumors, especially on TikTok, even Blue Sky about Trump was dead, or might have kicked the bucket. And
That
it
was
was like
Memorial. Was it Memorial maybe?
was it? Yeah, it was. So and
was
ever
it?
since then, it started with his hand, right? I think his hand, and then he disappeared for like those 4 or 5 days. He had the cankles, like the swollen ankles. So ever since then, before, like when Biden was president, oh, Trump is the strong man. He's, in his 70s, but he's, not Sleepy Joe. And then we started seeing like these huge signs of his, of him having health issues and not being. We always thought there was something wrong with the dude, like mentally. But here.
He asked about my MRI. MRIs are very.
Governor Walz asked you to release the MRI records.
Will you tell us what it was
Governor
for?
Walz, you mean the incompetent Governor Walz? So if they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What were they
It's like
looking
my
at?
phone call where I got impeached. It's absolutely perfect. So if you want to hear about it or if you want to release it, do you want to have it released?
Yes,
News Nation, failing News Nation.
No, sir, we're not failing.
News Nation is doing lousy. by
Notice
the
he
way.
always has
But
to
if
throw
you
in
want to
those
have it
insults
released,
for
I'll
just
release
perfectly
it.
simple
Tell
questions.
us what they were looking at.
For what
I
released
can't
it?
hear it.
No,
Is it just
what
me?
part of your body was the MRI looking
I
at?
have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark, which you would be incapable of doing. Goodbye, everybody. You too.
Thank you.
So this was Jasmine Crockett. This might have, I'm not going to say this is the first sign, but remember he was talking about the rigged election. So he said, Trump on the Olympics and the World Cup, it's only because they rigged the election. That'll be your president representing you there. And then Jasmine Crockett says, so Trump is rambling on about he and Elon Musk rigging the election. Am I missing something, or is he confessing to yet another damn crime? Those sound like his health and this sound like two different issues, but this had me wondering, because this was in January, if this was one of the first signs of he's living in an alternate universe, like in his mind. And I don't know. I just think there have been signs that we may have missed, even, that sounds crazy, but this was that weekend, Casey, that you and I were texting each other where he was missing and he came out of I guess that's the West Wing of the White House, supposedly going to play golf. But then the Republicans started showing photos or videos of him on the golf course, and they turned out to be from not that weekend. So it was all like a front. So we don't know what happens, but it seems like he's having treatments once a month, maybe, because he does disappear. And then we have some more here. Those are the hands, or the makeup, the failing makeup on the hands. This is a more recent photo that went viral. And there's him in his happy space getting a made-up award from FIFA, which was really embarrassing. So these are things that, they keep coming. What do y'all think of that?
I think that if you've ever seen someone in like Hollywood or in like the movies,
They asked about
you can see the difference that makeup does. And I think that they are doing some real work to try
I feel
to
like that's intentional.
And that's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
are doing some real work, not just on his hands. I mean, like on his face, because when you see the pictures of him being taken like out of, like just from like a long camera or like whatever, the paparazzi shots, he looks very different. And they can't cover up him sleeping in meetings. Obviously that's happening, and we're seeing it. But in terms of like his physical appearance, I think they're doing a lot to make him look like he's awake and alert and alive. And I don't think that's what he looks like behind the scenes at all. I think that there's obviously a longstanding health issue happening, that they are biding their time, Republicans are, because they know that this is the person that their cult, the small amount of people that they have left that are beholden to him, are not going to have that same allegiance for someone like JD Vance. And so they're pushing him. They are going to weekend at Bernie's him until the very end.
100%.
And that's what's happening.
And now there's photos of both hands. Like, I guess his right hand is definitely the original one we saw with the makeup, but now his left hand is having like bruising. And I again, my grandmother was having dialysis, and there's only so much your skin can take from these stents or from these,
especially at that age, your veins. It's difficult.
So they have to find another location.
I mean, so it makes you wonder what the other veins look
Maybe
like,
they're
right?
putting
Where
in
usually
some kind of
the middle of
embalming fluid.
your arm here, the chest ports. I mean,
Make him look
got to be a mess. But I think it's even more corrupt than keeping him for the small part of the base that's left. I think the corrupt MAGA branch of SCOTUS, Congress, all of that, they are getting what they want with him in place. They are getting rewarded financially. They are hurting everyone they want to hurt racially. They have wanted this for a very, very long time, and they have their stooge in place. And as long as they can prop him up to continue hurting everyone they want to hurt and get what they want, they will keep him there. Even if he has only one person left supporting him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they're not clamoring the way everybody else is about the 25th, because they know Vance isn't going to have the same, whatever you want to call it, charisma or whatever, over MAGA the way this dude had when it first started.
Well, like JD Vance hasn't sued any media outlets. You know what I mean? Like it's the part of Trump is his unpredictability. I mean, which becomes predictable if you really watch it. But like the idea that he's just going to sue somebody because he knows that like he can tie them up in the court system and that they'll eventually settle, even if they know they're not wrong. And JD Vance is more of a career politician in that way, that he doesn't have that record. And so I don't think he's as much of a threat that way. And in addition to that, the reason people liked Trump or say that they liked Trump was because he says it like it is. And like I'll go off, and I'm not going to right now, but I will go off on a long tirade about this because it just enables people to be racist. That's what they feel comfortable, because he says it like it is, because he says it like a racist. He says it like a person that has no filter. He's not. The difference between him and other politicians is that they watch what they say, because they know they have to get people to vote for them.
Yeah.
And that historically it's not okay to speak that way about groups of people. And Trump doesn't care, because that's how he
Which
is.
JD Vance even acknowledged, which he
So-
himself even said.
What do you guys think of the fact that they are floating JD Vance already for president? I think that's stunning. I'm just like, first of all, I don't think he can win, but that's another discussion. But
Well,
like
is it
already
who? Is
they're
it just the one
like,
person?
well, what's her face?
The Widow Kirk.
Erica Kirk,
But it started this conversation about, and I don't see the pushback from the right that I thought I would see. And there were a couple other people boosting him too. What I haven't heard is Trump squashing him down, and he's
Trump
done it in the past.
Trump 2028 stuff fell apart. Like you don't see that as much anymore. Remember, that was like a big thing. And then they kind of said, "Oh, it's a joke," but then it was like, "No, really." And then all of a sudden, it just sort of dissipated, and we haven't.
I think they're trying to find another, like, what's going to happen.
100%. They know
JD Vance going to work,
way.
or who? Yeah, I mean, because
so now they're.
He might not. I mean, I think it's become clear, like, how long is he going to make it? And then if you try and add the fact that you kind of have to campaign, if you're going to like run again, how does that? That's not going to work.
Right.
He's not going to have a fully functioning campaign, even if you leave the Constitution aside. So I just think that's really interesting that they're floating JD Vance already. Okay. I did want to, another thing, let's look at the White House transformation, if you want to call it that. So the Rose Garden freaked us out. So you saw the Rose Garden. This is a historic photo of RFK Jr. in 1963 in the actual Rose Garden. And then it moves on to what it looks like today, which is basically a parking lot. Or Casey, I think you called it a food court.
It looks like a bad food court from an outlet mall. Oh, it's so ugly.
And so then we see what's happening in the White House. So I think I back up a little bit.
Look, even the golds don't match. They like gold and brass, and it looks awful.
Yeah, actually, I think this is a more recent photo. I was looking through photos, and there's like a transformation, because he had the pictures with the gold frames and then these crazy looking trophies. Like we were all like, what? Like, are they urns? Are they? What are they? You saw this transformation of the Oval Office with more gold being slapped on everywhere.
Like, make it like I want Versailles, but make it on like a DH Gate budget, right? Like, how do I go to the dollar store and get Versailles? That's what this looks like.
this was one of the first, like the early, I think this is one of the first photographs we were like, what is all this gold?
Like, I don't want to offend you if this is your aesthetic, but it's ugly.
Yeah, no, it's to me, it's the markings of a crazy person. And then they started.
Yeah, and I talked about this with my grandmother and how she had excellent taste. And I would have said that, like, I wouldn't have described her as a minimalist, but I would have said, like, she knew what needed to be in places in terms of aesthetics. And then when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, we eventually started seeing her buying things in, like, you know, she would put pictures really close together and they would have competing color palettes that didn't match. And like just things that from a visual standpoint, you're like, that doesn't look good. And she would think it was amazing and you could not tell her different, like either. Like she was adamant. So this is like, to me, really rings true. And also, like you're pointing out here, that they've had to label things. Although, can he read cursive at this point? I don't know. But yeah, they've labeled things so he knows where he's going.
Well, Casey, there is no East Wing, so he just sees sign and knows, oh, that's where I'm supposed to go.
That's true.
Plus, there's a mirror there, which I'm not sure what the point of the mirror is. I haven't heard.
Oh no, he just likes to look at himself. What do you mean? It's like he loves himself.
It's outside though. That's weird. I don't know.
I really think that they took from design, like element, like you should put mirrors up, they make things look bigger, and they're like, sure, we'll do that outside. Like they just took some of the rules of design and switch them around and use them inappropriately, and now you have this mess. And the wall of presidents with the captions underneath,
the presidential wall of fame.
It's like a horror story. It's so embarrassing, and I want to sign up. I don't know if they're going to have this option, but if we could come in and clean all of that up, just take it all down, you know, like almost one of those rooms where you bang everything. I want to go do that, but with all this shit that he put up at the White House.
I can't imagine, like, when we do get to the point of 2028 and there's actual contenders on the Democratic side, I'm sure that will be asked by many kids, like, what are you going to do about the White House? Like, just assure me you're going to restore the White House. You know, I've said this before, we're not that old of a country. And there's not a lot of history, like if you really like compared to Europe. But this, to me, when he started blabbing about the ballroom and what was his original budget, like it was under 100 million, then it went to 200 million, then it went to now it's 400 and something million. And then all of a sudden they started tearing down, or actually it wasn't even tearing down the East Wing. It was like they were tearing down a wall, which is how, or at least that's how it was presented, that they were tearing down a wall so that they could do an addition, which is believable because when you do an addition to your house, they do have to take down a section in order to make the new section. But then they tore down the whole thing, and then he's like, "Well, we discovered we couldn't save it." This to me, I was ready to throw shit across the room. I think this is so awful.
This is one of the things where people were not underreacting. When I tell you that there were people who were apolitical in real life and they were so offended by this and so bothered by this, and this was like the one thing that I feel like if we're going to look at moments where the tone shifted and where the Trump administration lost some of its footing in terms of support from the people, this is absolutely a moment that changed things. When he knocked down the East Wing, people were incensed. And these are people who aren't like us. I mean, like everyday people who aren't in politics all the time heard about this and went, wait, what? Like that shouldn't, you mean he can just go knock, he can show up with a backhoe?
It was unbelievable. It was one of those things like, I cannot believe this happened.
Very anti-American. And when you think about it, a lot of people, they themselves may not be what you consider quote unquote patriots, or they may not be people that are politically active or in the military, but a lot of people have grandparents that served in the military or uncles or, dads or whatever. And so they see this as like which it is a very clear betrayal of the executive branch and the powers that are bestowed to the executive branch, because even if it hasn't been expressly given to you or denied to you, the idea that the executive should use some sort of like decorum and like I don't know, just not knocking stuff down, that seems very contrary to the American way, right? Historically, presidents have shown patience and have shown leadership. And this is like a child throwing a tantrum. And it flies in the face of everything that people have fought for to preserve this country. I think that it was such a moment of revelation for people who had maybe been checked out a little bit, or like knew that there was bad stuff happening, but maybe not to the effect, or didn't really know what he could do. And this was the first real visual display of his authority, the overreach of his authority, that scared people, I think.
And everything, especially since this started, he's really, really gone really downhill as far as what one would consider beneath the office of the presidency, especially lately with the shit he's been putting out on his Truth Social stuff. That just, it's abhorrent. Everything he is putting out there on solemn holidays, on just for anything you can think of, just the way no president of the United States should be putting out the crap he's putting out, tearing down the White House, sticking his name on everything, including, because he does not know better, a memorial, the John F. Kennedy Center. That is a memorial building, and he stuck his name on it anyway. He's just doing, and then there's nobody left to tell him no, like at least there was in the first time around.
It's delegitimized the executive branch. I would say that Congress, people were already very like frustrated with Congress. There wasn't a lot of, like nobody was revering Congress. People had like pretty like sad and exasperated views, but the executive branch was one that people still put faith in. They still looked to and like held esteem for, and he's just wrecked that. And now it like, used to be an honor if you got something from the president or something with the executive seal or whatever, like if you got a card or if you were invited to something or whatever, and someone made a comment they had gotten to meet the president, and they're like, well, I mean, I still got to meet the president, and someone immediately shot back with like, what does that matter anymore? And I think that's what he's done, is take away the legitimacy of like one of the last remaining parts, the vestiges of the government that people still look to and had, like honor and like feelings of respect towards, right. Not anymore.
And on the world stage as well. Suddenly, yes. I mean, in 1 year's time, the United States of America, and no one looks at it as just Trump, right? The United States of America is now voting in lockstep with North Korea and Russia. We are on the outside when everyone else, our allies included, are voting for righteous things, for Ukraine, for NATO, for everything else. We are now voting with the axis of evil. He's done all of this in 1 year.
Yeah.
And
so,
January 6th is coming up. Who knows who knows?
Just a couple this week. So going back to the last thing on the
ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for.
So just to set this up, this is Netanyahu visiting their meeting, and he goes into a rant or whatever you want to call this about the ballroom, and listen to what he says.
Magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number, and we're under budget and ahead of schedule. Now it's bigger than I told you. After realizing we're going to do the inauguration in that building, it's got all bulletproof glass. It's got all they call it drone-free roof. So drones won't touch it. It's a big, beautiful, safe building.
So there's so much to unpack that he said there in that little clip. I posted this the other day, but it's like, first of all, he says it's under budget. What budget?
No, it's not, because originally he pitched it as $100 million.
It's because he keeps changing the budget.
Last time I
So,
think it was
and then-
400. What is it up to now?
And then at what point did y'all, when did, the way he talks about having we're going to have the inauguration there, this is from this past week. So whose inauguration is he talking about? And it's just, to me, this says so much. And then he's saying everybody wanted this. Literally nobody asked
literally
for
no
him
one.
to tear down the East Wing to build
In
a
fact,
ballroom.
they said no. And they were like,
Yeah.
no, we don't want it. And then he came in and here's how he circumvented this. And I would like to remind everybody, this man has lied about pretty much everything. And so when he comes in here and says, don't worry, I've got it paid for, and he circumvents Congress, because remember, that's how presidents have to get stuff paid for, is through Congress. They have the power of the purse. That's the whole concept of separation of powers, right? And checks and balances. And this man's like, oh, but I don't need Congress's approval because I'm just going to get it paid for by these corporations that are going to give me money if I don't give them tariffs, or if I don't, it's like, it's literally the most corrupt, anti-democratic way. But on top of that, why are we believing from a man?
I think you're crazy to believe
historically
that. And the talking point out of the White House is that Trump is going to pay for it, and the donations from corporations or whatever. First of all, Trump, there's no way Trump is paying for it. Like he is the biggest grifter ever. I mean, he's, with the meme coin and all this stuff, he has amassed billions of dollars. He's not using one penny of that to pay for this ballroom.
No.
Secondly, these, unless there's something I don't know, but what I've seen, these are pledges from corporations. They are not actual dollars.
No.
And so, and also Trump does not pay his contractors historically.
Right.
So I don't know if most people believe this. I personally do not. Like I will be surprised.
No,
if
this was
not
the
coming from our
classic.
tax.
This was the classic, I'm not going to ask for permission. I'm just going to knock it the fuck down, because then you have to build something else there. Like that way, it's like he knew that this was going to cause an uproar. He knew that people would not agree to this. He absolutely knew 100%. And the same thing with the JFK thing. It's like he ordered, if you go look and see, they ordered that and had it ready to go. So it wasn't, he knew he'd just throw it up there before anybody could even sue him. This is what this administration is doing now, is that they're not waiting for permission. They're actively doing things to force and manipulate people into giving them what they want. And it's crazy to me that people aren't clocking this more and seeing it as a pattern and knowing that eventually this is going to be more than just decorations, right? Like it's not just going to be about the aesthetics around the White House. Eventually this is going to be like actual policy that's affecting our military and
and it's all illegal. It's all illegal.
Right.
And no one's saying anything. There are
because who
laws
polices the
about
police?
this.
That's what this is. Who polices? The executive branch enforces the law. Who's policing the police?
And look at Netanyahu's expression. Like Trump starts talking and he's like, what the fuck? Like this is like, so I just think that's crazy.
No, he didn't pay the workers that knocked on the East Wing. We haven't even seen a purchase order for any of that.
And he broke up with the architect. He broke up with
Right.
the architect because the architect was like, that's too fucking
And
big.
he fired the entire board of people that were going to come through and assess whether or not he'd done what he was, like the people who checked to make sure everything's okay, they're gone. Like that board.
So I think I always had real questions. Did they preserve properly? I mean, it shouldn't have been torn down, but did they preserve the history of the East Wing properly? And
No.
I don't believe, I need some proof. I need the receipts. I don't think they did. And
it's crazy.
and for
He
me,
said he wasn't even going to knock it down originally. Remember, it was like we're just going to add an extension on. Like
I just feel like it would have taken more to prep for something like this properly. It would have taken many months to do it properly. And I don't know about you guys, but anytime, like I think you don't have to be a history buff to have seen photos over the years of different events in the East Wing. This is, and just to paint a picture, this is really the what am I trying to say? The First Ladies, where her offices are, her staff, and there's parts that are used for events. You see pictures of the history of Michelle Obama and other First Ladies, Jill Biden, and that is no longer there, and that bugs the fuck out of me when I see it.
And Nancy Reagan. and Laura
Nancy
Bush,
Reagan.
the Republican first ladies, and RFK Jr.'s sister-in-law, who had a
Yeah.
huge part of the East Wing and the Rose Garden, and just all of it. There's no way they could have preserved all that in the short amount of time it took that man to decide one night, tomorrow morning, I'm knocking it down. I don't know how they could have preserved.
He
all
just
of
showed
that.
up. Like, that's the other thing is like it's not, people are watching the White House. This is how we got video footage in the first place. And so there was absolutely no like, oh, look, they're doing something. Oh, look, they're planning something, right? It was like literally like, no, they've showed up like with a bulldozer like that. It was that day. So they weren't planning to do this because there's no planning.
Insane.
There have been so many crazy things that happened too, because you just jogged my memory when you said people are watching the White House. Going back to when that weekend where Trump disappeared, remember somebody was throwing a trash bag out of the window of the upstairs window? And it's like, you cannot make this up. It's like, and they said that was a security violation. Like that one move was a security violation. People were speculating, it was the remodelers throwing debris out of the window. I mean, whatever. It's just not.
They're operating this entire administration on the basis of trust me, bro. And you can't trust them because they've done nothing but lie. But that's literally what it is. Like, just trust us, bro. Like, I've never seen anything like this in my entire life. And I, as a political scientist, like, am flabbergasted on a regular basis at how intentional this was, because obviously they knew exactly what they could and couldn't get away with, because they knew that a lot of this wasn't like expressly written down, because why would they have to write stuff down like this? Because if you were even kind of beholden to this country, like, or loyal to this country, you wouldn't be doing things like this. But anyway, also the illegal things like Lisa's talked about, like it started with just them doing things that were like, they were using the legal system to get things done that there was ambiguity, right? Like maybe it could be legal, maybe it couldn't, like who knows. Then it shifted right into like, we're just going to break the law. We don't care. Who's going to stop us? And that's the problem, is that nobody is stopping them in real time. I mean, obviously Jamie Raskin like filed suit and stuff, like people have filed suit to try to stop it on the back end. But in terms of anticipating or getting in there before he does some of these really detrimental things, this is part of their strategy. I mean, we knew that coming in, was they were just going to start throwing stuff at us, and like it's like a game of dodgeball. You can't miss all of that, or you can't catch all of them, I guess.
You
But
can't
now-
anticipate what he's going to do.
Right.
One day he's knocking down the White House. Okay, so you play catch up. I mean, it seems like we're always reacting instead of getting ahead of it. Okay, we're going to
There's
file
too
suit
many-
against that. And then the next day he's blowing up boats in the Caribbean. And it's like, whoa, you can't see that coming. And
No.
okay, so
How
what's
could
he
a
gonna
sane
do?
person? Yeah.
It's like you're always in react mode, because how do you see this batshit stuff coming?
Well, you heard him mock a disabled reporter in 2015, and you go, that's not a qualified candidate for the executive branch. And that's it. And that's what should have happened. And maybe we all died that year and we all went to hell. And this is where we're living now, in hell, because that makes the most sense out of everything that I've heard so far.
Damn.
It's true. Someone was like 2015 or 2016. It was like the gorilla. What was his name? What is it? Who was it? It was like, that's when everybody died. That or COVID.
Harambe.
Yeah.
Lisa mentioned
Oh my
the
God.
boat strike.
Tell you that was
let's chat about
definitely
that.
not
Oh my
artificial
God.
intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that.
So this is like a side by side
Little
where
boats all
our
on their way
favorite-
to
I was gonna-
America, because that boat could certainly make the trip.
Tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented.
As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah. So, you know,
Oh God.
this is murder to be plain. And I think we're at over 300 now that they have actually murdered. And there has been, I just think we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to make the point that if somebody else has seen it, let me know. But I have not seen any evidence of that these are not just regular people. Now, I realize some of these boats are narco, but I'm not convinced they all are. But to me, the bigger point is like, why are they going after these low-level traffickers? But he's actually pardoning kingpins. This is where
This looks like a tarpon fishing boat. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is not some sort of a major drug kingpin, okay? You can't just go around shooting boats in the ocean. Like, that's not how it works. We aren't, like, you can't call us a republic and then just randomly target people. And by the way, if you're going to say it's not random, then you have to show that evidence. And they're like, no, you don't understand. The military is difficult. Like, that's what you can't understand because it's too complicated for you, but we're just going to blow things up. What? I can't. And if anybody served in the military that's watching, I am so sorry because I actually can because it's a political scientist and a former teacher. It's been really rough to watch this. So it must be the same for you. Like I just having put your life on the line for this country and to watch this dude just do whatever the fuck he wants and drag the military through it.
I wanted to show.
Sorry, I just can't.
Casey,
So since we're talking about
I
the
can hear
Secretary of
you.
Defense, Hegseth,
I can't hear Chris at all, or the clips.
You can't hear me?
I haven't heard one clip, but I can see Chris.
Can you guys hear me?
moving, but I can't.
Casey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hear Chris in the clips?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Oh.
This is not. This is now just a photo.
Okay, I'm gonna log off and then come back on to see if I can hear.
Okay. No problem. Well, can you guys hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Okay. So Hegseth. So this kind of ties into both. Like it is just so unqualified, and then their whole notion about DEI qualification. Like so this is our previous Secretary of Defense, Austin, and now we have our current Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, depending on what side of the aisle you're on.
And look at the picture of him. Wait, this is a side note before you go on. Look at the picture of him and how young he looks, because that's the last picture they have of him in uniform. It's like, here's this guy, right? Like from like 1,000 years ago. Oh my God. Sorry, go on.
So you have a general with 8 commands, and you have a major 41 years of experience versus 13 years of experience, and he had 0 commands. So he's let's see.
He had 13 years of experience and 0 commands.
Yeah. And he is calling the shots here. I don't know whose idea it was to call it the Department of War. I feel like it was Hegseth's, but it might have been Trump's. I don't know. But either way, that was an asinine thing. It's ridiculous. And that also would be an act of Congress. You can't just change.
It's a weird thing that you wanted to be the people that ended all the wars, but yet you're calling our defense the Department of War. Like, you see how that doesn't go together, right? Like,
as you're bombing boats off of Venezuela.
Yeah. Right.
Like small boats. And now we're seizing oil tankers, and we're going to keep the oil. That's legal? No.
No.
You can't just
How
do
long
that.
is the world going to put up with this, right? Because it's like I said before, it's like a child, right? Like for a while, you're like, well, they're just a child, right? Like this is just who they are. And like you kind of just work within, like you deal with it. Like Lisa said, it's reactionary, whatever. But at some point, these other governments are going to be like, I'm sorry you put a toddler in control of your government, but we can't sit by and watch this happen. What then?
I mean,
Like
it's
I've said,
piracy.
Yeah.
the rest of the world, please forgive us. That's like, I hope when this is all said and done, they will forgive us because, yeah.
We're
Sorry,
committing
Lisa, what were you saying?
piracy on the high seas, and we're kidnapping entire crews of oil tankers. Where do we have them? On what grounds are we keeping them?
Chris, can you hear me?
I can. Yeah. This is the most
Can you guys
transparent
hear me?
administration ever, right? They keep
Yes.
saying that.
Okay.
And they're not
It's
transparent.
like Pete Hegseth is playing a video game, and we're blowing up these boats before there's any search to seize the drugs. There's no pictures of big packs of drugs. There's nothing. It's just we're judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah,
It fits their
100%.
narrative.
We're
And
just
that's the thing,
killing
is,
them.
like, they had this narrative that there was, you know, that this is why they have to hate Mexico, right? And like these other countries, is like because this narrative that they're the ones pushing the drugs. Reality is we're probably the problem, right? Like the U.S. is almost always the problem, and we're blaming everybody else. And this is how they get away with doing that, is acts of aggression like this, because the Republicans have only fear is their motivator. Fear is what they use to get people on their side. The fear of people, the fear of drugs, the fear of fentanyl, the fear of whatever. And then they just point fingers at stuff and they go, well, we're solving the problem by aggression, because that's what people think means you're strong. Because people have a obviously either antiquated or like misogynistic or just flat out wrong view of what it means to have strength. But that's what Trump has told them. Like, we're going to be strong and we're going to bomb people. And that's how you know that the U.S. is number one, or like whatever he says, his weird speeches.
That's exactly it. I'm not going to mention his name here. I'll share it with you guys later. But there is an account that I found earlier. I shared it with Chris, and it's somebody who has left MAGA, and his insights are interesting on how MAGA was shaped, and it is completely fear. It's fear-based. It's a lot about they and them, and that would be us, and we're coming to get them. And so they have to keep the fear going, and that would be Trump and the administration. They have to keep the fear going. We're in their homes. We're listening to them on devices. We are around the corner. We are part of the cartels. We are part of the overall system. We are just, be on the lookout. They're coming to get you. Be afraid of them. Be afraid of, we're just everywhere encompassing. And so they have to keep that fear alive by aggression. And they just keep.
They did the same thing with guns. It's the same thing they've done with everything. But like specifically with guns is what the NRA continues to do. It's not just like you need the guns to be safe. It's that you need the guns because this is what we're telling you the Constitution specifically says, because you have to be able to protect yourself against a government that, by the way, has nuclear weapons. So your argument falls apart there. But that's what they do, is they convince you that this is your right and you're entitled to that. Because it's for protection purposes, because we're fighting this war. What war? Like, what war? I thought you were going to end all wars. No? Okay.
Also, some of our other highly qualified secretaries. I just put that up there. Just this is what we're dealing with.
Remember when they were confirming all of it? Remember what that was like, that whole week? Like of confirmation hearings, like, or 2 weeks or however long it was. Like, well, that was such a nightmare, and somehow it's still bad. Like we're still here and it's awful, but it was so bad then.
The dude on the left, his name is RFK Jr. He should never have been. Well, all of them should never have been approved, but above all, like, he's the one that he is actually harming the most Americans right now. Like, and it's just going to get worse. I mean, I remember Texas had, there was like this outbreak of measles, and it was just a few cases, and he was on there talking about, they need iron injections or whatever. And then the little kids started getting iron poisoning. And now there's an outbreak, quite a large one in South Carolina. So this is just, and there's other diseases.
On Threads, I thought I sent it to you, but maybe I didn't. There was somebody who posted that her son had gotten measles. He's like 5. In South Carolina, I think. And people immediately jumped on the mom and they're like, why aren't you vaccinated? She's like, he's immunocompromised. And so here's an example of, like, just because like vaccines only work because of the herd immunity impact. Like people who are immunocompromised are still at risk, and even just anybody for that matter. Like, so people whose vaccines have worn off, like people like my parents' age that probably haven't gone back maybe to get certain vaccines that they thought they didn't need anymore because those diseases were eradicated. So this guy who, by the way, was pretty, like, if you go back and look at the confirmation hearings, like in the testimony, he was real sensitive then when you were trying to pin him down on whether or not he like thought vaccines were valid and like he supported the science. He got real mad. Like, and that should have been like 12 red flags. I mean, before he even got there, I think there were plenty, but like that should have been it for people. And Bill Cassidy, I remember at the time we dragged him for filth because he was a doctor. And he sat up there and he voted to confirm this man. And now he's obviously openly regretted that, I think, like somewhat. But
I mean, this is a man who thinks someone like me should be on a different vaccine schedule because I'm Black.
Right.
And because I have a different immunity.
That my autism was caused because my mom took Tylenol.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a person.
Long-standing history of it.
And he has no qualifications at all. Like he is not, he's not qualified in healthcare, immunization. Like he's a person with an opinion and a famous last name.
No, it's like tapping my daughter to run the Department of Defense. Like, sure, like she's seen a gun before, so surely she can run it. Like that's their logic. It's just, you want to do it? Cool, come on up. Like, anybody can do it because it's not really him that's doing it. Like, and that's the other thing that we haven't talked about a lot here, but Stephen Miller and Russell Vought and all of the influences behind the scenes that we absolutely know are calling some of the shots. They're letting people like Pete Hegseth and Kennedy do certain things they want to do here and there. But they're also overseeing a lot of this and they're telling them what to do in their bigger plan, right? Like in the bigger plan that they have. So this is my concern moving forward is like some of the people say, oh, it's distraction. I don't think it's so much as distraction as it is placating. Like they're allowing them to do kind of what they want because this is like, hey, it's a quid pro quo. Like you want to come in and get rid of vaccines. Cool. We'll let you do that. If you also let us do this. Right. And that's what Lisa was saying before. Like it's difficult or impossible to imagine and anticipate what these policies are going to look like in 2026. I mean, we have some ideas, but we really can't figure out exactly because some of this is so beyond it's so out of our scope and frame of reference for people who are trying to run a country because they're trying to bring forth an agenda that this isn't about running the United States of America. It's about bringing forth their agenda that the Heritage Foundation has adopted. The Christian nationalism, the white supremacy, the misogyny, like that's all prepackaged in their agenda. And we keep looking at it from a standpoint of these people running a country, but they're not looking at it that way. And so that's terrifying to think about the fact that we really can't anticipate how much worse it's going to get or what it's going to look like because of the fact that they really are doing so much of it behind the scenes and just letting these people act as figureheads to placate them, to distract us, to do whatever.
Yep.
That was a downer. Sorry, brought everybody down.
I mean, listen, it's reality. I do want to add something here. Well, let's highlight this other situation that is terrible. Just really quickly, the USAID shut down, thousands of deaths worldwide because of it. And I remember at one point, I don't know when it was in the year. I feel like it was early on in the year, but when he was shutting it down, what is this date? November? No, it was way before that. There was a warehouse full of food and Trump let it rot there instead of getting distributed. Like, honestly, at that point, it would have been like he should have distributed that food. So I just think we need to remember this, that they do not care about people. They do not care about people. I guess this is part of his America First, but it honestly hurts us on the worldwide stage. And these are people we already, have been helping, and we're just saying, nope, we're not going to help you anymore. We're going to let you starve. I think that's just insane.
It is. it is. I think this is one of those that they've gotten away with a lot because people don't understand. And that's not me being like, I'm not being adversarial or like looking down on people. It's just people can only take in so much, right? Like people can only be aware of so much. You can't know everything about the government because you have other jobs to do, right? In real life. So it's like you have to rely on messengers, people like us. You have to rely on journalists. You have to rely on people just doing the right thing. Okay. Or at least enough people doing the right thing that you can catch the outliers that aren't. Okay. And so USAID is like, that's one where I think most people, if you pull people off the street, they don't understand what we're doing, why it's important, like the necessity of it, like the history of it. Like they don't understand anything. And so this is one of those things where, like, unlike the East Wing, where when he knocked it down, everybody immediately went, wait, what? Like, that's terrible. Yeah. People like us did, but a lot of people just still don't get how this is the fallout of this. And that's sad to me. That
even besides the humanitarian part of it, which is huge, you can also just connect this to our own farmers. A lot 100%. Of the farmers lost contractors, millions of dollars are gone because they do not. So like we're talking about the farmers suffering, right? This farmers needed this bailout. This was part of that problem. The fact that they had contracts for years where they were farm aid, they were supplying food for the World Food USAID. Mm-hmm. So
people don't know those kind of connections because they just didn't know that was like they didn't understand that through way. Even farmers themselves to some extent. So this is they
voted for Trump. I mean, not all of them, but
fund education, fund civics and education, because it's like part of the empowering part of this is like, people have to
civics
understand.
I've said this before, and I know your history in civics, but it is such a sin that we do not have a proper civics education in schools. So much of this misinformation and misunderstanding of how government works, how government should and shouldn't work, would be avoided if people just had a basic understanding. Even fairly plugged in people do not understand the filibuster or do not understand when you need a majority, when you don't, when there's a filibuster-proof majority, when you need, and I forget sometimes. I'll be honest.
I have to look up, Chris. And I know I learned all this. Let me tell you, the Congress classes I took are lengthy and boring.
Yeah.
I
think we're missing out. We are missing out. It is not good.
Yeah. And it's just also because you don't have anywhere to go. So one of the things that I used to teach my kids was like, my students, you can't know everything, but you have resources and you can go look up, go find this information from these resources. You have critical thinking skills and you have resources, go find this. Well, now you go to the CDC website, like what's up there? Like, right. Like the government is putting out trash on its own pages. So now you can't trust the government. Who are you trusting? Like, where are you getting your information from to even sort of fact check this? The Trump administration, the Republicans have done this intentionally, but it's just a larger problem now because it's like, well, not only do we not have this civics education, this foundation, we also don't have a way to check things. We don't have a way to check for understanding, to check to make sure people are accountable and doing the right things because we don't even know what the right thing is anymore because we're just,
and we can't
vibing.
I can't believe how much, I can now, how much our education system has changed. Like I graduated high school in 83. At the time, civics / government, that was a required class. We all had to take it. So by the time we graduated, we knew how to register to vote. We knew the basics about the 3 branches of government, that sort of thing. And what they all meant, definitely how to vote. And now, not only is all of that gone, there are TPUSA chapters in American high schools. Greg Abbott here in Texas is trying to mandate a law requiring a TPUSA chapter in every single high school in Texas. He tried to get the 10 Commandments in every single school in Texas, which luckily has been appealed. It's gone now, but they were there for for like a minute and now they're gone. I just can't believe how much the education system has completely deteriorated as far as basic law goes.
I mean, it's by design. I can't say specifically civics, but Republicans have been tearing down, especially public education, in red states, especially for years, and we are seeing the results. You mentioned Texas, so I don't think there's been enough appreciation, even at the time, for Texas Democrats who left the state when their governor, at Trump's orders, was doing a gerrymandering push. And this is what started that ball rolling. They got attention on this issue. I don't think anyone was really taking it seriously. And they, it was to their own detriment in the sense of they do not make much money. They were getting threats about fines. And so I live in California. I'm very appreciative of Texas Democrats, Texas legislators for that move, because immediately after my governor, Newsom, was like, we're going to fight fire with fire. And then it all got started because we also were hearing other Republican states were going to follow the Texas playbook. We still have a lot, there's time. We'll see how this plays out. I think there's some very real, I don't know if you want to say concerns, but there's some, they may have dummy mandered them, themselves into a loss. And let's hope that's the case.
And people need to understand why the Texas Democrats did this, because there was a lot of backlash.
Because they're going to lose.
Home, and which is just so ridiculous. They left the state, and they were incredibly brave to do this. We knew that arrest warrants were going to be issued because the Texas GOP are just petty. They did this the last time they did it, and they were not going to get paid. Their checks were going to be withheld. The reason they did that was to force the hand of blue states to do something. I think for the most part, we were all out of options, not just Texas. I think the country as a whole, we were out of options. What can we do? We knew Abbott was calling this special session not to help the flood victims that were devastated by the July 4th floods here, in which there's so many people were lost, but there was an enormous amount of children that were lost by these floods. And instead of focusing on that, Greg Abbott, under Trump's direction, wanted to racially gerrymander the state. The Texas Democrats took a stand and left the state, and they were working the entire time. And Governor Newsom, bless that man, he put the vote to the people in California. And once the Texas Democrats and Governor Newsom, they spoke, they got the deal. Yes, he's going to put the vote to the people of California. Then the Texas Democrats came back. That was the whole reason they left. They weren't going to just stay gone forever. They have families. They have other jobs. They had to come back home. And I don't think people really understood that they weren't going to stay away forever. They did have to come back. So I'm very proud of them on what they did. We now, California did pass Prop 50, and we're just so thankful for that. And yes, the gerrymander might hopefully turn into a dummy-mander down here. A lot of Texas GOP are actually leaving office, are retiring. They see the writing on the wall, and we do have many more registered Democrats in this state than Republicans. It's just the way that we are drawn out of the maps. But hopefully, we will raise a lot more noise and get to many more people in this state to get them to the polls.
Okay, so I saw this post last night, and I thought this hit the nail on the head. I'm sharing this because I'm leading to something here. Voters are increasingly, this is from George Takei, voters are increasingly applying a new standard to Democratic leaders, one that asks who has the backbone to confront Trump's abuses and fight for real structural change. Strength and principles are what this moment demands. That's everything right there to me, because it's like, I think for a new candidate, like, I care more about who is going to fight the good fight than maybe, some of the issues, the other issues that are important to me. Like right now, we are in such a bad place. I think that this is a basic requirement. If you are going to run for, I'm talking about for the Senate, I'm talking about for Congress, but even more so looking at 2028. Like, you have to be ready to take on Trumpism. It doesn't have to be, MAGA, but Trumpism, because that extends very well into the Republican Party, whether they call themselves MAGA or not. I just thought that was such a smart post.
Yeah,
And
there's a problem with that, because historically politicians have been a certain kind of way because they have to get the vote, right? Like, they have to get people who will show up to the polls for them. And historically, that kind of aggression or like certain phrasing from politicians was frowned upon and may still be frowned upon. But the problem is now we have to find people who have the knowledge of politicians, because if Trump hasn't proven to you, you can't just take an outsider and throw them into politics. Like, I don't know what will, but you can't. And you have to have people who understand the system and how it works together. But you also have to have people who can get in front of a camera and feel comfortable enough to have these conversations in a way that, like, they have the charisma, that they have the aggression, they have the fire, the main character energy, for instance.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to find in a package like that, especially when you also have people who care about their job, like, right, the people that are like, well, I want to get reelected. That can't be your priority anymore. And that flies in the face of a system, especially after Citizens United, where it's like all about money, right? It's all about fundraising. It's all about that. Like, and so, will your donors pay when you're saying some of these more controversial things? I mean, this is where you have to say, don't care.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of launched with a defeat Schumer, or Schumer step down, and one of our slogans was "Weak won't win." Well, we spent, I don't know, guys, what was it, 6 months, 4 months? Like, I'm not talking about the reformers, but just us as coming out of the 2024 election. Politicians were largely silent, like, for months, and I think we, as rank and file Democrats, were like, no, we need fighters. We need fighters. So I think I totally agree with your point, Casey, but I think we are looking for bravery right now. Even if you make a mistake, even if you say the wrong thing,
that's
you
what I'm
can't
saying.
face it.
The bravery is what's needed, and I think is paramount to everything else, because part of bravery is the willingness to learn and try new things. And so doing things that you aren't necessarily comfortable with. Like, for instance, I don't like being in front of a camera, and you'd never know that because I'm a content creator. But why am I a content creator? Because I couldn't stay quiet anymore, right? So it's like I just couldn't not do it. It doesn't mean that I'm comfortable with it. It doesn't mean that it's easy for me. It doesn't mean that any part of the journey has been easy, but it's necessary. And so this is where I say, for a lot of these like older politicians, or when I say older, I mean like people who have been established, right? Like people who have held office that like didn't really think they needed to get on a live, for instance, like AOC, and do the kinds of things that these like more like what we call are more progressive candidates, but it's really just people, I think, that are meeting the moment and realizing the need is there and they're able to evolve. And part of that bravery that you talk about is the willingness to meet those moments and say, like, I don't really understand social media, or I don't love getting in front of a camera, or what if I say the wrong thing? It can't be about the what ifs. It has to be I don't have a choice, because if we don't do this, then it all falls apart. So
I think there's going to be a huge backlash for anyone that's not brave. For anyone that doesn't go up and isn't like a Mamdani or somebody that goes up there, and we need them to know that they've heard us. We don't need someone like Chuck Schumer, or we don't need Harris, Biden, redux. We don't need to hear candidates fighting about them and the past. We don't need any of that. We need to know about what are you going to do for us now and defeating Trumpism, like Chris said. We need to know, what are you going to do? Have you heard us? Because we have been in the streets fighting for our families, for their families. We want our country restored. What the fuck are you going to do for us now going forward?
There's a reason that TikTok was impactful and made such a mark, especially like if you compared it to YouTube, and why it was so like it took off so well was because people were just recording things in their rooms. They didn't have studios. They didn't have they weren't practicing things. They were organic and authentic. And I think that when you see some of the people that are going to shine in this movement, and what the Democrats really need is people that stop planning offline, like people that stop rehearsing their speech points like Schumer, and actually just get in front of the camera or get in into the write their social media tweets, whatever, and just say, listen, we're with you and we're mad too. And just validate the people's feelings, validate that we need to do something, and start saying the things that need to be said, because that pushback is actually going to do something. I know people are like, oh, they can't do anything because they're not in control. You'd be surprised what a voice, a collection of voices from sitting Congress people can do. You would be surprised at how much that can move things. And if everybody did it all at once, this man wouldn't be here right now. Trump wouldn't be here doing these things.
I think
and it's not that hard to just be yourself and authentic if you remove the fear, because the fear is what's stopping them from doing the things. Is they're afraid to make a mistake. They're afraid to lose funding. They're afraid, instead of just being like, I'm just going to do what I feel is right and damn the consequences, because that kind of authenticity and that organic passion is what's going to carry the Democrats
and that's
through.
What we want.
That's what we want.
The moment we hear that fear in their voice of their donors, of their corporate and billionaire donors, they're out. We don't want that. We don't want that. And we can see and smell that a mile away.
Then you're not loyal to us. You're loyal to your money. And we already have somebody like that in office. We don't want more of that. It's not hard
Democrats, in our special elections, Democrats have been overperforming. And so we're over the 2-hour mark. I think, ending on this note, that Democrats have been overperforming going into 2026. If you look at the special elections, where we were in 2024 versus now, or the previous election versus now, they're overperforming. Tennessee special election, look at that turnout. People don't show up normally to special elections. And then we have last night, or this morning, midnight, I guess you could say. So that's first thing this morning. Zoran Mondani was sworn in as mayor of New York City by Letitia James, who Trump is trying to put in jail if he can. So it's this is the perfect cap to a year, in my opinion, 2025. And it gives me a lot of hope because, Mamdani is controversial I would say more controversial among other politicians that are I guess he makes them nervous than the actual people. I think most of us can see why he won. He spoke to the people of his city. Now, is this a model that could work in a conservative red town? Probably not, but you could take elements of it. If I was a politician,
not the things he's saying, but the way he's saying it you can model that everywhere. The organic
and we're talking right now about, we spent a fair amount of time on this call talking about affordable or healthcare. That crosses political lines. It doesn't matter whether you're blue or red. Now, maybe you have a different opinion, but I'm telling you that's going to change. I really think when everyone is losing insurance, or they find they can barely scrape together the money to pay for it, we're going to be revisiting a public option. I don't know what you want to call it. 100%. I'm not calling it Medicare for all. I really don't give a fuck what you call it, but this is not working. And I think there's more people that are going to be speaking up, and then add that to the overall affordability issue that Trump thinks is in our imagination while he's building, a convention center attached to the White House that can hold 800 people. We're this is setting the stage for a huge anti-incumbent election and I guess a blue wave. I hate to say it, but yeah, I could see that.
I think you're right, because I'm seeing all of these, like, just even in the last few days, these screenshots of people. I think I sent you a couple of people being like, oh, my insurance just went up, like, 50% or, like whatever. I was paying $500. Now it wants me to pay $1,700. The numbers are.
People didn't know. We knew, but people just didn't know.
We were trying to tell people last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, even before the election, we talked a lot about this. We had campaigns. We were trying to explain, even that Obamacare was the Affordable Care Act. That was like a whole thing, right? Remember, like that. Mm-hmm. It's going forward. It's always going to be about when people face their own challenges, and when people are uncomfortable, then they come to the polls and they speak to that. And that the polls have always been representative, like, of people's frustration or their happiness. And usually it's the frustration that gets people there, not the happiness. So it would not surprise me to see significant blue waves. The reason I'm concerned and what I'm trying to do and will be doing this year is trying to connect with our politicians, or get people to connect with politicians, I should say, like have other people connecting with their politicians, and sort of getting them to emulate Mamdani and some of these other people when it comes to how they communicate and their strategies moving forward, because it's time for an evolution. It can't just be meeting this moment. It's got to be meeting future moments. And it's just that time of politics has passed. The time of politics, from your dad or even like of George Bush, like, or what, we're done with that. We're now in a new era of politics, and what it has to look like with social media is different. And so going forward, I want people to perform well, sure. And I think that they will, because historically we would see a spike in blue voters anyway, just with Republicans controlling all three branches of government, right? Like that doesn't make people happy, even if the economy is doing kind of okay, right? Not to mention when things are all falling apart and people having to pay like 3 times their health insurance premiums, and the economy, the inflation's terrible. People can't pay rent. That's going to drive people to the polls. But what's going to keep people willing to vote for Democrats long enough for them to achieve some of these policies is that organic honesty, that like not being beholden to corporate donors, the being able to speak to people in people believing what you're saying, as opposed to a rehearsed talking point that feels very impersonal and just like, I'm here to make sure you vote for me. Bye. That we have to be working with people to demand this from our candidates moving forward. So like however we primary them, or like whatever it looks like.
One thing we can be, I know we don't have a lot of time, that we can be proactive about. There's going to be a huge reckoning for the first paycheck of the year, because a lot of people who weren't paying attention and just let their insurance renew automatically, when that first paycheck hits, or if it comes out of their check, or it comes,
good point,
that's when they're going to realize that their lives have now changed dramatically. And we should be prepared for that, because
I put this graphic up here because when I was scrolling through looking for content for today, this is us saying this back in August when we were talking about the big beautiful bill fallout. The ACA subsidies expire in 2026, and that is exactly what just happened. And we're seeing what we talked about was the premium spike that is happening. So we try to warn people. And there's a lot of work to do. And I think people are just now, Lisa, as you said, Casey, as you said, they're starting to realize this. And we need politicians to be brave and to honestly, like, do your job. Like, if you're going to run for office, talk about this is why Mamdani won, because he spoke to what people are feeling on the ground, to people's lived experience. And I think that can translate to any district. It may not be the same lived experience as a New Yorker, but there's other lived experiences that are locally, and a lot of them are going to be tied right now to healthcare and to affordability of, you know, of survival.
And so a lot of
100%.
Trump voters are going to be looking for something else. And so I think we have to be very careful. And I know that we are, but, you know, spreading the message of let's not keep bashing. Let's not keep saying, you voted for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think overall there needs to be an improvement in how Democrats get their information. And I say Democrats because I feel like that's the only party that's really looking to do something for the people right now. Like, let's be really honest about that. The Democrats, like sometimes they'll be like, well, the poll numbers show, and I'm like, who are these people that you're polling? Like, right. It's not really representative of people on the ground, like you were saying. So how they're getting these stories from people, because I know people are calling in and leaving messages, but are they really landing? Like, I don't know, but I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of times when I hear a politician speak, I saw this with Tim Kaine, and I think I told you about this, Chris. I was like, who's he citing? Like, who are these people, these imaginary people that he's talking about? Because they don't seem representative of the people that we're actually seeing that are frustrated. So I would say also, just if there are any Democratic like strategists that like are connected to campaigns and candidates, I would say figure out where the fuck you're getting your information from, because it doesn't, you don't seem to have a real true pulse point of what's going on. And that's the difference with somebody like AOC or Mamdani. Some of these people is like, they genuinely seem clued in to their constituency in a way that a lot of
Because
the
they're
establishment,
talking to them and they're actually listening.
that's it. That's the thing. Instead of talking to people and trying to win their votes, how about you just talk to them and listen to what their real concerns are? It's like they're so ready to meet them and be like, well, but you don't understand. No, sir, you don't understand. You have to evolve. And this is the problem. I see the lack of accountability from both parties, but specifically when we look at candidates that have been in Congress for a while and they're like, that's just not how it's done. You're right. That's not how it was done, but it needs to be done different moving forward. And this is the evolution that we need to see with candidates in terms of embracing digital media strategies and all of the other things that basically you come to the table and you say, no more excuses. If it's not working, it's not working. I'm not afraid to go back to the drawing board and scrap things and start all over. That's where I feel like the people, they want that kind of initiative. That's the bravery you're talking about, is the willingness to admit when things don't work and start all over again. But that all starts with listening to the people and really understanding what their needs are, what the wants are, what the hopes are, and then trying to find solutions for those, and then not marrying those solutions when they don't fucking work. Like, that's the right, like, let go of leaders and things that don't serve you in 2026. Can that be our new motto moving forward, please? To end on your, can we let go of things that don't serve us? Moving forward.
Sorry, mic mute. We've had so many technical issues today. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. We thought we would do this kind of recapping the year, and there was so much we didn't cover, like so much. This could be days in the making. You know,
it will be a Netflix documentary one day. Is what's gonna happen.
And everybody joining us right now knows that. Like, they all have their own like memories.
Right.
And I'm telling you, you know, most of the people on here are on social media. If you go back and look at your timeline, you're going to see things that you forgot about, and you're like, holy shit, you know? So that's kind of what this was about. And I hope you guys can continue to have conversations with us. We're doing this Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern time, regularly. We started on TikTok Live, and now we're kind of going cross platforms. And just having these conversations. They won't be as broad as this. Usually we focus on a couple topics that happen during the week. Like, you know, we didn't even talk about the Epstein files today.
We didn't.
That's
There was so much. We didn't even get there.
Yeah. So thanks everyone. Happy New Year.
Night. I know you said that there might be a different night that is better for you. So it may not always be Thursday, but we will try to find a space and time that will work for most people. Yeah. And then maybe we'll have specials where when other stuff happens that, you know, like if a wing of the White House gets knocked down, like we have to show up and talk about it.
If we're having another government shutdown, we'll probably be on whatever day of week that is, because it's
right.
Hopefully we don't see we want to talk about bravery. We need brave Democrats. We need Democrats to come back and, really use that as leverage. If we're going to have another government, like that seems to be how we're governing these days.
Yeah.
by
I mean,
seal.
fame whore. Like we need them to to think like fame whore. Like, they gotta get in front. It's the truth though. Like you have to think every time there's a camera, I gotta get in front of that and I gotta tell people and validate that like what they're saying. So like I'm not just listening to the people, but I'm also in front of that camera communicating to the people. At any time I see something, I'm gonna take that camera and I'm gonna take that moment. And that means you have to be a fame whore. You want to be in front of the camera. And I think a lot of politicians are civil servant or civic servants and don't think about it that way, which I totally get as somebody that didn't want to be in front of the camera. But we have to shift our mindset in 2026. Y'all have to just want it. You have to want that limelight. And especially when something like a government shutdown happens, like you got to be the first one there performing for the cameras, because that's what it is now. Politics is performative. I'm so sorry, but that's where we are. Welcome to 2026, y'all.
All right. Thanks,
Happy New
everybody.
Year,
Happy New
everybody.
Year.
Thanks for being here.
Bye. Happy New Year.